I would like to welcome also people who are here. I know there are many people here tonight who are English speakers. So I would like to, first of all, welcome you and explain you a little bit how you could enjoy the interviews tonight. You can connect your mobile devices to the website EYECatalunya and connect to the streaming, and using your earplugs, earphones, you can hear the interviews too. I would like to say also hello to everybody, all people who are connected at this moment through our website. We know there are many people in the streaming participating, not only English speakers, but also Spanish speakers. Me gustaría entonces dar la bienvenida a todos.
I would also like to welcome the Latin American people, especially people who speak Spanish, Latin American, and also those people who speak Brazilianish, Portuguese. We know we have a lot of people connected. Welcome to all of our Brazilian friends. Now I would like to explain a little bit the procedure. It's the first time we have this show, so we will explain a little bit. We will invite in each program 3 creators. Each of them will have 6 minutes to introduce his or her project. Then he or she will have 6 minutes for a small interview, very intimate, so that they can explain a little bit about their projects, their lives, and also 6 minutes for those people, so that they have time to answer the questions from the people connected all over the world, also the people here in the room. If there's someone who only speaks English and he may want to make a question, he can also do it. I can also translate the question for you. Our project has also the mission or the idea to give value to envision and give value to these things that enrich our society, so that we can make our lives better and our society better through creativity. Tonight I won't speak a lot more about the project. I would like to open up this creation space with one of the things that we always think when we think about creation, the book of Genesis, which explains the creation of the universe. This book starts with the words, and at the beginning the verb was the verb, the sound and the language. Through language we create our world. Tonight we have invited someone to give blessings to this creative space, someone who has dedicated his life to sounds. He's a mathematician and has his way, his path, and has dedicated a lot of time and has studied Sanskrit, one of the oldest languages. Welcome, Miquel. Welcome, Miquel Peralta. I'm sorry. Thank you very much. Have a nice evening. I would like to start singing a Sanskrit mantra, and then I would like to say some sentences in Sanskrit. Please don't fear the Sanskrit languages. The objectives about the mantra is to create a good ambience where nice movements, inner movements can come out. Sahana bhunaktu sahaviryam karavavai tejasvinavaditamastu ma
vidvishavai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Bhavatam sarvesham hardam swagatam karomi. Adya mama mahan santoshaha asti yataha bhavatam sarvesham sahayena mama samshayo nasti yat sammelanamidam atyantam sabhalam bhavishyati.
Only a couple of words for this, to give you a warm welcome. In these instances, moments, I would like to explain a little bit what Sanskrit is and why Sanskrit can be of interest for everybody and for the creators especially, and the project that we have created here in Barcelona. Sanskrit language is the classical language in India. It's not a usual language. That means in Sanskrit you cannot go and buy bread nowhere in India. It means it's a language that has been reserved only for philosophy, for mantras, for poems to the gods, and for intellectual subjects. What happens with such a language? It doesn't go wasted. It stays the same all over the centuries. The languages we speak now are very different from the languages we spoke 200 years ago. Sanskrit has been the same along 2,000 years, and this allows us to see the processes, the lines of the words don't get erased, they stay there. In Sanskrit you can see that in a very clear way, and it's a big party in this sense because you can see the way language works through your own eyes. Why Sanskrit? Sanskrit is the vortex from a big and oldest tradition, intellectual, philosophical, artistical, that has been undervalued in Eastern countries. It has to do with many other things. Sanskrit is also a key to a process or to different processes that not only rational. It has achieved to create a tradition where, without stopping being rational, Sanskrit opens to all other possibilities and creates a path where it's a lot easier to find the keys to open kind of different paths, alternative paths, to see different things to the things that we usually see, to the things that are fixed in our heads. Finally, for the school, I would like to say when I started studying Sanskrit, it was very difficult for me because Sanskrit is very difficult. Most of all, because the vocabulary is very complicated. Language hasn't changed, but during so many centuries, there's a lot of vocabulary. Sometimes you feel like you're studying 5 languages at a time when you're studying Sanskrit because there's a lot of synonyms. Each synonym has a little difference from the other word. Mitram, when it's warm, Alasia, it has our own age, same age. There are very little variations that have a lot to do, and then you have a lot of vocabulary that complicates everything, and the didactic way of learning Sanskrit is very difficult. It's not taught in an easy way. You have lived, wildly lived the language. And what you don't understand now, you won't understand it in 7 years. We cannot allow ourselves this luxury. And if we have interest in the language, we have to find a way, at least to make it easier, to learn Sanskrit. That means the difficulties that can be solved with clarity and explaining things well, we should do it that way. And during all those years, many people have come to the school. I would say about 10 people have learned Sanskrit well. They can read texts, they can read Bhagavad Gita, the sutras. These texts they can read them in the original language. And as I say, they open up some paths, some ways. It's a very difficult tradition because people cannot go close to the language. They have the feeling they have hit a wall and they cannot move away from that wall. Sanskrit is a language that allows you to see things as they are. And there aren't things that sometimes go too far away from what the root is. Sanskrit has sometimes only to do with the sound. So sometimes to learn the language doesn't mean to learn all the vocabulary. So it gives you the possibility to get into their world of sound. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Miquel. Now a little bit more closer. How did you go from mathematics to music and then to Sanskrit? Is there any relation that we don't see apparently in these three disciplines? Yes, of course. For me, this is very personal. Between music and mathematics, I don't see much of a relation, but there is. For me, mathematics had to do with trying to see. Mathematics was the nucleus of the essence of the way we think in the Eastern countries. It's a way to think deeply. I felt there was something else. There had to be an alternative to that. So Sanskrit collected my interest for this alternative and for the music and the sounds. Because Sanskrit, as you said before, it's something which is very basical. It moves everything, not only the outer sound, but the inner sound too. And this way helps us, can help you understand my relation with the music. And this is the key to seeing the world without excluding rationality. Gives you another way to see the world. To say it colloquially, some people are angry with rationality, with logical thinking. And Sanskrit creates systems to dip in it. Mantra is not something what it's said, it's also what generates. Through this, a lot of possibilities open up, not only the rational but the irrational too. Do you think rationality has to do with music and mathematics in your case? Music would be a little bit more like sensual, like right and left hemispheres. What I feel is that is a synthesis, a summary. You don't have to forget thinking. The first Sanskrit was oral, it wasn't written. This is a big monument to rationality, how they organize their own language. Their rationality is very different to ours. On the one side, there's this rationality, and on the other side, there's this capacity, this ability to open up to other things. We have to find the middle point, and so that these both things can melt together. How now in a personal way, how come you went near to the Sanskrit? How come you went there? First thing was translation. There were a couple of texts that had to be translated. I would read different translations and I thought it was too much. And then I started interesting myself about the language. The first sentence I ever heard, I was fascinated. And then I had to learn it in a rational way. I felt a call from the universe. And then I realized that I had found a tool, not only a tool, but also a way of living that will bring you forward. You said you realized you went to Sanskrit through the texts. As I said before, most of all, there's through Bhagavad Gita is something that's very interesting for many people. There are quite a few ideas from Hinduism, but not only from Hinduism, also from the whole tradition. This is the text that called me, that touched me. But you realize that this is not only the top of the iceberg. This is only another piece of sand there. It has to do with thinking and creativity. You said this language has to be associated to the language that to whom the people used to speak to the language. How do you do it? Explain a little bit about that. What the tradition looks for. Tradition wants to preserve a language that stays the same. The first Sanskrit grammatic came because people who were reciting, were singing the texts to the gods, couldn't use the grammar. That's how grammar and the way that they describe the language came out. When you sing a word with a bad grammar, the gods will not listen to you. What will they say? That's something very high for the people. What a priest from all over the world, the demand, the requirements this priest has to have a clean kelch, to speak a language that's not pure. It's to get him close to the language and to the gods as well. Now about the actual Sanskrit, the big experts that don't speak the language and only read it, how can this language survive? How can one understand that this language, which is something unique, how come that it's not spoken? We have tried to do that in our center, because Sanskrit it's an Indo-European language. It has the same family as Catalan, Spanish, all languages in Europe. Euskera, Finnish, and Hungarian, they have the same family. That doesn't mean that Sanskrit is the mother. It would be the older sister. Sanskrit is the oldest language in Europe which has been preserved. That makes it very interesting, and then you can compare with the comparative linguistics. Sanskrit can be kidnapped somehow academically only to see some formal questions that have to be cleared up. But the language is much more than that. For what I know from your school, one of the special things is that people learn the spoken language, because normally they only learn it in written. After what you said right now, how can you give the sound also the importance that it has when we talk about those two different big fields from rationality? And this takes it closer to other possibilities. The language, the architecture of these possibilities depends, or the tool is most of all the sound, to repeat the mantras, to recite. The sound in a way is touching our different ways of to vibrate, and it transforms them. This transformation through sound that's done in the Western countries through music, classical music, of course. Music also transforms us. Sanskrit, in this sense, it's a little bit more like something that goes straight away to the points, to the kind of points. Recently we have discovered musical therapy and the medicines in the future. We have discovered that the sound has a power to heal. This, of course, was there in the whole tradition of Sanskrit, and sometimes here has been invented a little bit about it, because everything it's garlic soup, like everything it has been invented already. In Barcelona we have the privilege to have your school so that we can go into this Sanskrit soup. What would you tell these people so that they fall in love with Sanskrit? What I would say is the power that the Sanskrit has is it goes through the holes, through the gaps on the walls, and to wake up our curiosity, our inner curiosity. And in our school, our most important mission is that nobody who has this inner call or this curiosity, when only even if it's only intellectual curiosity, sometimes this intellectual curiosity, one realizes what is one doing. In fact, you can look at our web page. Vani is one of the Sanskrit words. It means the language of the gods. And I also have to say that our center is neutral. We don't want to convince anyone. We only center ourselves in the language. If someone wishes to learn the language only to read poems in Sanskrit, you can always do it. We are not looking we don't really want to take people anywhere. He will decide where he goes through the impulse of the language. So that means you're not going not to the rational or to the spiritual part. It is only a key. Yes, when you do it like that, you see that each person feels and reacts in a different way. Some people go in this direction, the other one goes in the other direction, and it all goes naturally. The language is so plastic that it gives you all the different possibilities in an artistical way. If someone is very artistical, maybe he has more creative clarity. Some other people come to me and say, "Oh, I have more capacity to concentrate. I didn't have this capacity, and I learned it since I learned Sanskrit." And everything is it goes along with their state, their own way of doing. This way we now have a lot of we all want to learn Sanskrit. It's a shame because the 6 minutes are gone, but you have told about transformation. You talked about it before a couple of times, and the person to whom we will invite you now, it's someone who came from Brazil, from Rio de Janeiro, 1998, and through all these years she has developed and has dedicated to transform elements. I think that's the red line from the talk. We please an applause for Miquel Peralta. We invite now Tati Guimaraes, who comes from Brazil, Rio de Janeiro. First of all, I would like to thank Patricia for this program, for this innovative program, for us, Centro de Arte Santa Mónica, and all the people present here. What I would like to explain is a little bit my project, my trajectory. I came from Brazil. I have lived 15 years in Barcelona. I wanted to breathe the air from the bed of the arts. This was a big surprise because I saw a very inspiring city, and I would have loved to stay a little bit more time. I am graphical designer. That's an industrial designer too. I spent a lot of years in marketing as a designer, graphical designer, but I have always worked in parallel, and in my head I have always had a project. Since childhood, I played with materials that I found on the streets, or pieces that were old, or necklaces, and here I had the same thing. I worked for some agencies. I also did some handbags. I worked for agencies. I collected the materials that I found interesting, aesthetical, and I didn't think I'm going to save the world. I thought, oh, this material is beautiful. How come we throw it away? I took those things from my professional and from my personal surroundings. I did a lot of flyers and different things I have found. I decided to do something else, to go forward, and I did my project Titus. It's not a design studio. I put all my energy there and hope there. My first line of products, it's jewelry. The materials are graphical materials. Always thinking about industrial, to use the things, mixing industrial with handmade things. And then I started being was in some exhibitions from young designers, and then I was in some museums, design museums, and some businesses, companies came to me. They wanted me to design some things for them. I did some projects and things that had a relation to the wines, for example, for New Year's Eve. And these products have inspired me to design other products or cultural products, not only things that have been ordered to me, but also things that came out from my observation, my watching the normal life. Then, for example, you collect your best moments, and you have some wine corks, and these corks and this tray is of steel. I saw some people collecting these corks, so that's how the idea came and how I started preparing this. I wrote the date there, and this way the idea came to have a product that's very practical and beautiful at the same time. This is one of some projects in the jewelry. There are some spaces. With these products, I started being published in different magazines. Through internet, everything was very fast, and it went from one people to another one, and in innovation. And then I had some things in London for the Global Report. Then in Brazil about design, and that everything was sustainable. When I started, I was hippie. Now I'm very cool. From one point to the other, I'm just like jumping from one another. I think it's very interesting that people start thinking about sustainability. It's something very important in my work. Basically, it's a methodology. It's not only being a sustainable designer. It's everything. It's eco at the moment. It's bio. I came from a culture where everybody uses and reuses all the time. And from there I got this way of observing, and I saw the materials, and I brought them and transformed them to give them an added value. Sustainability is not only to buy, it has to do with buying only ecological products and then tasting the product. Each product has its own style, its own taste. I'm sure I have a different taste from other sustainable designs, but respecting most of all everything, with doing the maximum with the minimum, and giving the functions and sensations that you can get out of it. I'm also teaching in a innovation and design master. I'm very happy because I'm not only designing the products for the companies, I design and learn a lot from the classes I give, and this is very rewarding. I have also exposed in Milan, in the Milan salon, and which is very important for my product. And through Milan, I got to learn the MoMA in New York, the Q-Hunter, and he selected these best moments corks that were my star product. I cannot be happier. A year ago, less than 1 year, and my product is a bestseller already. I would also like to explain that this is the fruit of a long way. I have dedicated all my life into that, and I have worked a lot, and then one day the fruits come out of the trees, come down of the trees. I'm very happy to be here with you. Thank you very much. And now we need a coffee now here. It's the time for the interview. You explain everything the way you say, with a lot of enthusiasm and energy, with so feel happiness that it looks like everything is very easy. But I came here with a little dream coffer. What has inspired you? Why did you stay in Catalonia? How does this fact reflect on your life? I'm sure here, Barcelona, it's a city that inspires anyone. It has an atmosphere of... It's very difficult to explain because you feel it, and that's it. But I don't know so many people that came here and they didn't feel happy in the city because it's warm, it's welcoming. The city inspires, sweets and lives art. I came here with a very different culture, and I observed everything in a fresher way. The culture and products that had a lot with wine to do. And I came with this history. Of course, wine is not part of my culture in Brazilian. We have caipirinha, we have other things, but wine wasn't a part of my life. I had to observe and watch. It was my inspiration. It was a new culture. And I think I did answer the question, didn't I? Yeah, I think you did answer. Did she, oder? Something else that I find very interesting, apart from your designs and all you did, how you use absolutely everything. Does it have anything to do that you were born in Brazilian? This trying to get the best out of everything, to provide, to use all things. I think now most of the products, not only... What I want is that people act and react to these objects. Who is doing that? What's the other part doing me or giving me? All the people who buy my products are reusing them and taking advantage of them in a way. It's true that I come from Brazil. Of course, this has a lot of influence in that, because I've been reusing out of necessity, out of need. It has a lot to do with what I lived in the past, and the designers really live on the streets. It's nothing new to be a co-designer, but the way things get transformed, this is really personal. I can give you a bottle and you will see something, and I will see something else. You will have a point of view, I will have another one, and a way to do things. And this minimalistical view, this comes from Brazil. You said that maybe this Brazilian part is emotion. How do you express that? How do you... Because they are products that they are very, very simple at the beginning, but they transmit, they give a lot of emotion through them. I have this simplicity story, and everything has to be very simple, very minimalistic, and this is a big reflex of my own life and my work. The simplest, the easiest, so that you can see it, and you can transmit it in the emotion. You can transmit in the product. You told us about different spaces where you have been exposing. I'm going to say some of them, of the most important in the world for a designer. In New York. How did internet affect to project, to bright your world? That was fundamental, that was basic, because I didn't have a lot of money. I had I wrote a couple of articles, and suddenly I received 3,000 emails. 3,000 emails that I received from all over the world. And that happened because of internet. Thanks to internet, I would have never have access to these people without this tool that we have nowadays, thanks to the universe. Because of our generation, we have this tool, and this makes it a lot easier. Every articles, the primes, they all come from these articles, from these magazines about my work, and this is very important. It's really a very, very important tool. When you go around the world, you say you are a designer from Barcelona, and you represent us in MoMA and all over the world. What do you feel to be an ambassador from Barcelona when you were born in Rio de Janeiro? I don't know, I think this is richer because you can add. I feel a world's citizen. I feel Brazilian, I feel Catalan, I feel from the world. And I think this is the most beautiful. Some people, look, the Catalan designer, the Spanish designer. Some people say, no, she's from Brazil. I don't care. I simply love it. This way, this can go to many, many people, and we can share this experience with so many people. And I think this is the most important. Now, I'm working also in an exhibition, Spanish designer for foods, with Fernanda Adrià. And it will go also all over the world until the 2015, and it looks the food and design in the world. There are designers from Spain in generally, but they aren't necessarily Spanish people, and this is also a representation from all over the world as designer, as a Brazilian designer and designer. That's it. Thank you very much, Tata, to share this nice story and also to give us the entry for Pere. You said right now something that you feel citizen of the world. And the project where Pere Casas, the manager, the leader, is taking part was born in the States, but it has been broadened up all over the world for people and families all over the world that need at some time in their lives the help of others. And this project opens the doors to everybody. I would like to welcome Pere, Casas, and to thank Tati for being here with us. Welcome, Pere. Good night. This project, it's a project, as Patricia explained, started 50 years ago in Philadelphia in the States. It has been expanding since then, and the 1st of January this year we have been 300. We have had helped 336 houses, people. We have a couple of houses here in Barcelona and in Malaga, and we will open a new one. In Barcelona we did something new in this project that already existed. We tried to help the families and complement the housing with other things, that the children could do things that children usually do. We do different kind of workshops that allow these children and their parents to spend a whole afternoon and enjoy it. In the mornings, usually they go for the hospital things. What's a house McDonald? I would like to Casa Ronald McDonald. I would like you to do a kind of game, an imaginative game, fantasy game. You have a son and he's ill, very ill, and you don't have a hospital where he can be staying, and you have to go to a big city, then a city where you don't know anybody, and you have to trust that the doctors from these hospitals will be able to cure your son or daughter. Think what happens then. The expenses from home are the same. You have to pay your rent, you have to pay your loan, and that means you cannot get more money, more income, because you are not able to work. You have to go to another new city, and you have to find a place to stay, and that means you have to also pay the expenses of the travel expenses, and then you have the illness from your son who has to be in the hospital. Imagine the situation of a family. With all this context, this family, the usual is that it goes completely down if they don't have some help, some support to go through this situation. That's what we do. That's what the Casa Ronald McDonald does. It's a place where the family can live with the children as if he were at home, with all their necessities covered. They have a kitchen, living room, they have a washing machine, they have everything what they need. They have a parking space, they have games for the kids, and there are some terraces. Everything is there, and the personnel is really great. And they work each day of the year, and they work each afternoon there so that they can have nicer surroundings. In our house there aren't ill kids. There are kids only that maybe they are ill in the hospital, but not in the house. In the house they are children who play, who fight for things. They have to share, and maybe sometimes they don't like it, and they fight. When they are when they aren't good kids, we punish them, but we help them go forward and to survive. And if they manage to survive the illness, they can go forward, they can live their lives in a better way. In the way when these children are adults, they won't be overprotected by their parents, and the society will not treat them differently because they are not used to living with others in a house. In 6 minutes it's very difficult to explain what a house is And what happens, we have to see the reactions of the parents, we have to listen to the doctors. There's a before and an after. When they say there's an increase on the percentage of healings in the boys or children that live in the house and the children that live somewhere else, there are so many things to speak, to explain, that it's very difficult to explain all of it. If there are people who live in the close to the one of those houses, just come by and speak with us, and you'll see the families. Even if it doesn't matter if the children live or not, families go over the illness, and we can see that the children are happy while they are in the houses. Nobody forgets that. These children, when they only cry when they have to go, and this is something which is very important for us. It's our hope, our objective, and what we want is that they are happy. That this is a reward for ourselves, and this memory that we have, if we lose the child, this memory has to stay with us, and it doesn't matter how many thanks you become from people, and or people come and tell you things about that. This compensates all the efforts, everything that you have done until now. I usually end up my presentations because I share, I have. It's this sentence, it's very important for me. Everything that I have, everything that I can give, I will become it back, multiplied. And in one of these houses, we become a lot more than we give. Thank you very much, Pere. Now, let's speak a little bit. I had the opportunity to visit the house Ronald McDonald last week, and to experiment, to see in first person what that house means, which kind of space that is, which home that is, from ill people. Very briefly, which is the percentage of overcoming illnesses in the kids that have the possibility to be with their families living in such house like Casa Ronald McDonald. Explain us a little bit. Logically, when you are worried because of an illness, when you're worried about where will I live, or that you won't have enough money to pay a new rent, this adds on to the illness from your boy or girl. These children are like antennas, and this doesn't help them get better, recover. But if the parents are quiet and they are feeling okay, and they can see their children and how happy they are, that they enjoy, that they forget about the illness, this peace that they transmit them is going to help the children also get better. Most of all for the children that have a cancer. There aren't physical proofs, but we can see the numbers, the statistics about that, and the percentages. All the people that work in these ambiences has to have a call, has to feel like doing that. How is your team? How are the people who work with you? We are not special people. We are people who maybe lived a similar situation, or because we have a special sensibility. We are nothing special. Well, what's clear is that our goal is to help people, and this can be done by anyone. We have some timetables, but time is not important. First of all, is the person we have there. We have to think. Even though we don't have this magical thing to help these children, to cure these children, we know we have this tool, which is the house, and we really want to help the families, that they feel in peace, that they feel supported. You don't have to be anyone special. The proof is there are 336 houses working there, and each house has 2 people working there on staff. I don't think so many of us are so special. We are normal people that know what we have in front of us and that we are able to help others. How does the house survive? One house has to do with the construction. When we built to build such a house costed between 2 and 3 millions. We have a capacity for 15 families. Malaga has 50 families, place for 15 and 13. To maintain such a house, it's about 300,000 euros per year. That's a lot of money that we need. Luckily enough, there's a McDonald's business company that has a foundation, and one of their activities, it's another normal activity. I'm not making publicity of the foundation, but they are have very clear idea of how that they want to help society. What the foundation gives us is a 0.1% plus what we get in a happy day, which is a special day where we celebrate about the children's. In MAC, they get some money also from the restaurants, from the foundation, and this way we can build and we can maintain the houses. Because this is not enough, we also have some help from public statements and also from private people who believe in our project and work with us together. Actually, 70% of the financiation come from McDonald's, and the rest we are looking for partners and people on the outside. How does it affect you, the stereotype about McDonald's? Many people think, oh, it's a multinational, and they never mix it with such a beautiful project. In the different countries, I can say it's normal to speak about such houses. Nobody finds it strange. It's something natural to speak about it. In Spain, it's something different. There's sometimes some rejection, maybe because people don't know about the project. Everybody is free to think what he wants. But what I know, in the 12 years I have been working with this foundation, nobody forced me to go to McDonald's. I go if I want, I don't go if I don't want to. Each one can feel free to do what he wants. But there are not so many companies who are capable of doing what they are doing with us. They are not making publicity of it. They're not advertising that. Please come to McDonald's because we are doing that and that for the society. It's a beautiful project, and we wanted to speak about that because it has to do with creativity. Creativity can be expressed also in the social acts. Maybe this is a beautiful example from what McDonald's is doing. Thank you very much, Pere. We have talked about to the three creators of the night, and I would like to invite them all so that everybody can make their questions and at home or in the room. So just please come up here again. I would like to ask Miquel about his Sanskrit school.
Si es requisito imprescindible, aparte de ponerse a estudiar el sánscrito, tener luego un sentido musical y una voz tan bonita como la que he demostrado cantando el mantra. O si es el estudio del sánscrito, porque es la duda que me ha quedado. Me ha llamado mucho la atención el aspecto de sonido.
First of all, thanks a lot for your comment. First thing, what you say You don't need musical studies or musical preparation whatsoever. Sanskrit opens the person to a sound world, to a world of sounds. Sanskrit has something or a lot of ancestors' language. The words are very deep, very full. The mantra I sang, imagine how many times has been sung in the humanity, since the history of humanity. The Virulai, it's a Catalan example, it has only been sung 2,000 years. These words have more sound. They are the same words they have ever been. I don't have time to explain a lot, but to make sure that the transmission is exact and precise, Sanskrit translation built a very complex systems to repeat syllables without meaning from words and combine them, because they realize it's a lot more difficult. When you know the meaning of a mantra, you can change it, you can change a word. But when you repeat a series of sounds because they don't have any meaning, you are not gonna make a mistake about that. Since then, if they didn't remember the mantra, they would be able to repeat it, and they did that 2,500 years ago. What I mean is, the sound subject for them, it's basic. Can it be that it changes when someone speaks Sanskrit? Yeah, I would say that the idea of the sound in Sanskrit is that it is a vessel. It's a vessel. The sound is a vessel, and everything it's made so that the sound receives, and this way it gets charged with a lot of connotations. Any other questions? First of all, the selection, we don't do the selection ourselves. The selection comes from the hospital. The ones that really know about our existence are the hospitals where children are gonna be treated. We have hospitals call us and ask us if we have a free room. We don't do any selection. What we really follow is some criteria. When there are so many, the criteria are very logical. The distance, for example, how far away the family lives or has the house to get a room in Barcelona, because a family who lives in Reus maybe can drive with the car every day to Barcelona. Maybe they have to wake up early, but people who live in Galicia or who live in Canary Island or somewhere else, they won't be able to go back home. That would be one of the criteria. If the boy is not ingressed, the father and the mother can be with the child in hospital. But if the child is not ingressed, he needs a place to stay. That is also a priority. If there are brothers or sisters, if the brother is a child, the baby, sorry, maybe he needs special attentions. Also, how long they have to stay. It's not the same if the treatment needs 15 days or if the treatment takes only 2 nights or 6 months. Maybe you can find other resources. What happens if we cannot help these families? Luckily enough, in Barcelona we have a net, and we can offer them a place to stay. We have flats from different entities from different. There's no fight between these entities. It doesn't matter who takes more families. There's a problem and we have to solve it. And if there's something or somebody that they cannot help, they call us. If there's no possibility to help them through these entities, we try to find a room in a hotel. We have special hotels with which we work sometimes, and we use them, and so that we can help the families and find a solution to the maximum families possible. But not even like that. We don't manage even like that. People who live in Barcelona or in the surroundings do not realize until we leave this situation. That's the problem we have now. We have hospitals, nurses and doctors that are really fabulous. They are really the best. And that's why there's a lot of people coming from Barcelona here to get the treatment. When you have it easier, we don't realize it. But when the families come from all over the places, from all other differences, not only from Spain, but from other countries, and they come here because we have such good doctors and hospitals in Barcelona. This makes you feel proud of the hospitals. Let's hope the cuts we are experiencing in hospitals are not going to end up with our great system, our great doctors and nurses. Families tell you about that we are in another world, but in some sense, not only the technological one. There are new hospitals in many other cities in Spain, but what they tell us is that people who work in the hospital, they are very human, very close to the people. What has been explained to us is that some of them have not really had the possibility to be close to the doctors, to the nurses. What we have here is the doctor gives you his mobile phone. That's something that the families are very happy to have because they are close to the doctors, and this gives you peace of mind, and this way the results are also better. We really are a privileged city. We live in a privileged city. Any other question? Today it's our first program, and we have had some technical problems, as you can imagine, and see. It's a web thing. Probably there are people who are probably now in the chat in their screens, and we haven't managed to read the questions, and they are probably in the chat. That means we will have to invite them again. But what they have in common that I can see in the three of them, I felt very thankful to be able to have the contact with three people that are so creative, who are so passionate for what they do. There are different things. There's a red thread that's common in the three of them. First of them, in my humble opinion, and I hope in your opinion too, first of all is the love and the dedication to what they love, to what they do, and that's perseverance, constance, and in what they do. They believe in what they do. Each one of them is compromised with what he is doing. How do you believe on that? Which influence does it have in your work? I think it's basic. First of all, if you don't believe in what you do, it's basic. If you don't believe in it, who will? Then this is the motor. the more we believe that this is possible, the better it works. And if we don't believe that it is possible, we won't walk. And this is the utopia. It will work even if it's not working right now. And just keep going up to them. I'd say that not all of us can do everything. If I had to design, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't have the capacity to rule the families, to help the families in this level. I think one has to believe to believe in what he has in front of him, because that has to do with his own path. It has a coherence. How do you know if it's your path? This is you, really. And I think this is the key of the question. In my case, apart from a personal experience that I had from an illness, I had a very complicated situation. The fact that I have lived the situation, I could see things in another way, and I had the possibility to value life in another way, and to have a tool, such a tool, such a house as a tool that helps other people and families, and through your experience and the way you can be with them, and that you get paid for that. This is really wonderful. All I can give won't be ever enough, and I'm sure I will always receive a lot more than what I give. I have my mobile phone is always connected. The families are phoning me anytime they need to. I know I will receive from them a lot more from what I give them. This goes with the whole packet. It's not only to believe, it works, but you also live it, and you live it one day after the other. And you see the happiness in the parents' faces, in the children's faces. Doesn't matter what happens. Families are happy, and after some time they come and get some time and come and visit you, say hello. You have to live it to understand it. We have a question. Oh my God. Jeff is asking. Oh, we have more than one question.
Question for Pere Casas. In the areas where there is Casa Ronald McDonald, en las áreas en que hay una Casa Ronald McDonald, ¿qué porcentaje de niños?
In the areas where there's a house in Ronald McDonald House, which percentage of children can receive the help? Thanks, Jeff. We already answered the question, I think. Mónica Elena Yepes has made another question. Bless the technology when it works. It's a very nice question. Which part of the Catalan traditions what reflects the Catalan tradition in your projects? What is the Catalan tradition given your projects, to your projects? Influenced. In my case, I think the Catalan culture has taught me a lot. I chose to live here. It's not that I came here and I had the obligation to live here. I just chose to come here. And I'm learning until now. It inspired me a lot. I already said it. To do my projects, the way to speak them out, the way people work, the way people think. It's completely different from my own culture, from my own country. Basically, that's what's given me most and gives me still most. I would say in a language, in the case of a language especially, I studied first in the times of Franco, and then in the schools were Franco schools, and then afterwards, and then I had to learn in my own language afterwards. One has a lot learns about the importance of the language as a vehicle. Language is a vision of the world. A vision of the world cannot be imposed. Each one, as I said before, has to go with his own path. Everything is genuine for each one. And language is very personal. In a way, this necessity to recover a language that helps you in your path, in your connections. First, I had to look for Catalan. As I studied Catalan at university, the first year I realized the teachers taught in Catalan. I couldn't write on Catalan. It was to look for my roots, and then I kept looking for more and more roots backwards. And then I went to our ancestors, the language of the ancestors. That's where I went, the roots. In our case, we receive families from all over the world. There's 34% in Catalonia. That doesn't mean that they were born here. People who have lived for a short period of time in Catalonia. There's a 50% from people in Spain, and the rest from the whole world. States, Latin America, Nigeria, Cameroon, Morocco. There's a lot of people, each one in each own language. We use Spanish because these families can understand each other. In some cases, we have people from Russia. What we have seen is that these families want to get to learn the Catalan culture, most of all the language, and they see that there's quite a big difference between what has been told them about it and about the language and what really happens. Yeah, the Catalan must have a problem. No, Catalan will not have any problems in the schools. We don't have this Catalan community. People speak all other expressions. There are children from different places, and they go to school and they have no problems, and they can go forward with their studies. We can speak. That's another way to make illness something not so deep, not so press, and this way we can give people a little bit of a view of our culture, and this get their interest in it. I think another red thread is the transformation. We talked about it initially with Miquel. He said he looked for the opportunity that maybe all the knowledge ways have given him to transform himself, and he has transformed himself and has helped others to transform. You have transformed objects and materials, and you transformed society. Finally, to close this space for today, I could keep talking and talking hours long because they are very interesting people. I would like to talk about the transformation fact and the creation as a transformative moment. Creation always transforms, necessarily transforms, and that's what we are looking for with this program that we have started today, and in which you have been taken place. You made history here in EYECatalunya, and we are very thankful and very happy to have you here, because it has been a very long year creating and thinking about this space of growth, meeting, integration, entrepreneurship, inspiration, to present people who represent models, social models to be followed by the society. That's who you are for us. Thank you very much. The real ones and the virtual ones.
Now connected Jeff, Monica, to Juan Pablo, and to many of the guys who I saw here connected, the names. Thank you very much. We have a date with Catalunya next March the 18th here in the Center for Creativity in Barcelona, Arts Santa Mónica. Nos encontramos entonces el 18 de marzo de este
We
año.
will meet again next Tuesday, 18th of March in Barcelona
Con EYECatalunya.
with EYECatalunya. We see each other again. Thank you very much for everything.